Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump will deliver his first State of the Union address since returning to office. He's expected to outline his agenda on the economy, immigration, and national security. Plus, supporters share how they believe his policies are already impacting their communities. Jack Bradley with the details. Among the president's invited guests tonight are families impacted by crimes involving illegal border crossers. Jason Blair has what we can expect on the immigration topic. Meanwhile, Democrats releasing a counter message to Trump's State of the Union, with some 70 of them planning to boycott the event altogether. As a new 10% global tariff kicks off today, nations are responding to the Supreme Court's ruling, and Democrats are pushing for refunds. Arlene Richards has the latest. Today also marks 4 years since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. Arian Pastar has how civilians and officials across Europe are commemorating the grim milestone.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Kevin Hogan in for Tiffany Meyer. President Trump will deliver his first State of the Union address tonight since reclaiming the White House last year. The speech comes as the nation marks the 250th anniversary of America's founding. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has what we can expect from the president's address.
Now, the State of the Union is the president's opportunity to report on the condition of the nation and lay out legislative priorities before Congress. The president's expected to focus heavily on what the White House is describing as major accomplishments in the economy and immigration. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt offering a preview earlier today.
I know the president's really looking forward to his address tonight. You're going to hear a speech that is a celebration of 250 years of our nation and our nation's independence. You're going to hear the president share the stories of everyday Americans who have benefited from his policies. You're going to hear the president share tear-jerking stories of American heroes, past and present, who really exemplify what it means to be a patriotic American.
Now, lawmakers from both the House and Senate traditionally attend the State of the Union. However, several Democrats have indicated that they plan to boycott the address by attending alternative programming and not showing up. Or those that do show up will stage a silent protest by withholding applause altogether during the president's remarks. Take a look.
I don't plan on attending, no. I'm not going to sit there and listen to Donald Trump lie and try and say the economy is doing well when everyone I know in San Diego can barely get by.
It's my expectation that members who choose to attend will be there in silent defiance, of course, skeptical of the remarks that the president is going to try to deliver in terms of his spin.
It's shameful that they would boycott an address. We don't do that. Republicans don't do that. It doesn't matter if there's a president from the opposing party. We don't skip out. Our constituents want and need us to be here. Every member of this House represents over 750,000 people. They're disenfranchised if you're not sitting in the seat to be a part of the role and the responsibility of Congress. I think it's shameful.
Now, the president could also address the recent Supreme Court decision that struck down his tariff authority under an emergency order and outline alternative tools to keep those tariffs in place. Now, Trump has used tariffs to bring back domestic manufacturing, stop international wars, and to bring down what he calls unfair tariffs and other trade barriers that countries have had on the U.S. for decades. Congressman Ralph Norman today saying that the administration isn't the only one saying that the Supreme Court's ruling won't impact the rollout of tariffs. Take a look.
President Trump's going to get around it anyway. I mean, he's, you know, when the money that's been brought in and the level playing field that's been established, he'll continue to do that, and he's right in doing it.
Now, another issue to watch for here tonight is if Trump mentions anything new on Iran. The U.S. has deployed its largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, to the region, the Mediterranean Sea, as negotiations continue. Now, the administration is calling on Iran to abandon its nuclear enrichment program. with President Trump warning that failure to reach a deal would have some serious consequences. The president may also renew his push for the SAVE Act, which is legislation that would require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. And President Trump is also inviting Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, to be his guest at the State of the Union. Others expected to attend as guests are the men's Olympic hockey team, who just won gold this year, the first in nearly half a century, as well as Claire Lai, the daughter of Jimmy Lai, a pro-democracy advocate, jailed in Hong Kong under the Chinese Communist Party's draconian national security law. Business owners and locally elected sheriffs were among those addressing lawmakers this morning, saying they've seen direct benefits from the president's big, beautiful bill, now law, including the provisions eliminating taxes on tips and overtime pay, and others pointing out sharp declines in crime and drug overdose deaths since President Trump returned to office. Take a look.
Part of the tax bill that's really helped my employees is no tax on overtime. We do encourage our people to come. These are hardworking, family-oriented people, and to reward them with less taxes on their overtime and their hard work is very beneficial.
Joe Biden's first term, we experienced 74 drug overdoses. In 2025, after President Trump took office, we had 14. So in our county, that was historically low. We're off to 1, possibly 2 this year, so it's continuing to decrease.
Since the Trump administration, it's been a lot easier to be in law enforcement. My narcotics guys, they're not getting as easy busts as they used to. So that means it's working.
We have an all-female staff, lots of single moms, single females just starting out, and I'm hearing amazing stories as a lot of them have already filed their taxes and are not paying in this year, are getting a great return.
And while this is going on, the government remains in a partial shutdown amid a congressional standoff over funding for Homeland Security, particularly over ICE operations. Homeland Security also oversees the TSA and FEMA, among other agencies. So we'll stay tuned tonight to see if the president addresses this. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Immigration enforcement is expected to be a big topic at President Trump's State of the Union address tonight. The president has invited several guests, including people affected by crime and violence involving illegal border crossers. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
Immigration enforcement and border security have been major parts of President Trump's second term, as they were also big topics on the Trump-Vance campaign trail. The Trump administration has been making it a priority to deport as many illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in the U.S. and or abroad or qualify as being national security concerns as possible. Statistics from the Department of Homeland Security show that from January 20th, 2025 to January 20th, 2026, there have been 3 million total deportations. Of those, 675,000 were forced deportations and 2.2 million were self-deportations. The White House also touts that in 2025, the U.S. had a negative net migration for the first time in at least a half a century.
In 125 years, the murders, the lowest rate. You know why? Because they closed the borders, and we got a lot of people out. It's not just closing, we got a lot of people out.
It's no surprise to hear that guests affected by the major influx of illegal immigrants into the U.S. have been invited to the speech. Some include 7-year-old Dahlia Coleman. She sustained critical injuries after an auto crash involving an illegal immigrant driving a commercial truck. And YouTuber Nick Shirley, who was in the national spotlight for bringing attention to Medicaid fraud in Minnesota, was invited to the speech by Congressman Pete Stauber. Shirley has also documented ICE protests around the country, as well as other illegal immigration-related topics. And some of the Angel families who have had loved ones affected by illegal immigration criminals have been invited. Many attended an event at the White House on Monday.
Our youngest son, Joshua, was brutally beaten, tortured, strangled to death, and his body set on fire.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
And we'll have special coverage of President Trump's State of the Union address for you tonight. Join NTD's Tiffany Meyer, Steve Lance, and Mario Otsu at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's right, after evening news. And as we track the president ahead of his speech, hear reactions from lawmakers and speak with panels on what it all means for you. So don't miss it. And meanwhile, some 70 Democrats plan to boycott President Trump's State of the Union address tonight. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer delivering a counter message today.
Donald Trump's first year back in office can be boiled down to 3 words: costs, chaos, corruption. That's the slogan of Trump 2.0, costs, chaos, corruption. That's what his administration brings to the American people.
Schumer claims that the first year of Trump's second term has driven up costs with tariffs, cut health care, and created chaos with ICE operations. Senate Democrats say they are offering an alternative which will lower everyday costs for Americans. Some 70 Democrats plan to skip the speech. Most of them will attend counter-programming events in Washington, D.C. President Trump's new 10% global tariffs went into effect today. Meanwhile, how are nations responding to the Supreme Court's tariff ruling? And what impact has it had on trade deals? NTD's Arlene Richards has the latest.
Other alternatives will now be used to
Shortly after the Supreme Court struck down President Trump's worldwide tariffs imposed under one U.S. law, he signed an order to impose a new 10% global tariff under a different law. The new 10% global tariffs went into effect on Tuesday. So far, the president has not officially signed a directive to raise it to 15%, despite his announcement a day after signing off on the 10% tariff. And as he makes efforts to preserve the White House trade agenda, some countries are assessing the potential fallout from the ruling.
This gives us the impression that this is so uncertain what now the development will bring.
Others are more confident.
We will actively contact and communicate with the U.S. over the subsequent procedures.
Meanwhile, Democrats have begun calling for the federal government to issue refunds. India and the European Union have deferred trade talks with the United States. On Monday, the European Parliament halted its ratification process of a sweeping trade deal with the United States.
And nobody knows what will happen after, and it's unclear if there will be additional measures.
But the U.S. has reassured the EU that nothing's changed.
I understand your decision to delay this morning's votes on the relevant regulations, but it is imperative we keep the process moving forward.
India has also slowed engagement with the United States over tariffs. India's Finance and Corporate Affairs Minister told the Hindu news outlet on Monday that New Delhi's Commerce Ministry was reviewing the situation. Japan's trade minister asked for reassurances on a Monday call with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Taiwan isn't worried. In a press conference on Tuesday, Taiwan's vice president reassured the public that the country's prior trade deal with the U.S. remained intact.
I believe that this negotiation outcome provides a favorable foundation for ensuring that our industries continue to enjoy a relative advantage and the best treatment in the face of the next phase of changes in U.S. tariff policy.
On Monday, 22 Senate Democrats sponsored a bill that would require refunds plus interest primarily to small businesses. Senator Alex Padilla said in a statement on Monday, "We must ensure that hardworking Americans and small businesses who have footed the bill for Trump's disastrous economic agenda immediately get their money back." Trump has said the ruling didn't do enough to address the refund issue, which could tie up the federal government in court for years to come. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Today marks 4 years since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainians are mourning their fallen loved ones, while Western partners pledge continued support. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the story.
Residents in Ukraine's capital city of Kiev holding a minute of silence on Tuesday. They're commemorating the 4-year anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, honoring the people who have died in the fighting so far. People chanted, "Glory to the heroes, death to the enemies, Ukraine above everything," before falling quiet again. Some Ukrainians say they never expected the war to last this long and hit the 4-year mark.
I thought it would all end in the autumn of 2022 after our counteroffensive. But then it became clear that it would take a long time.
Leaders from the European Union are in Kiev on Tuesday, joining Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his wife to honor fallen soldiers. Zelensky told the European officials that he hopes they can soon join trilateral talks with the US and Russia.
We do what we can to involve Europeans as much as possible, and we count on your leadership in all this.
He added that the next round of talks, led by the US, might take place in the coming days.
We gathered this morning to mark yet another terrible anniversary.
And in Brussels, NATO Chief Mark Rutte speaking at the NATO headquarters to mark the anniversary of the Ukraine war. According to Rutte, the alliance has supported Ukraine since the fighting began and will continue to do so.
The flame of freedom is alive in Ukraine. And that flame continues to burn and glow.
Meanwhile, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin says the war has evolved into a much wider confrontation with the West. Moscow warns that this could lead to a confrontation between nuclear powers.
There are already media reports of their intentions to use even some kind of nuclear component. They probably understand what this could lead to.
The Kremlin says that, for now, Russia will continue the fighting in Ukraine, while adding that Moscow is still open to a diplomatic end to the war. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Coming up, the State of the Union address tonight. Will President Trump be able to sell his economic policies to the American people? And can he rally the nation around his peace through strength approach abroad? We get insights from our panel of top-notch political and economic observers. And what do everyday Americans think about the current state of our nation? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people. Good to have you back with us. President Trump will speak before a joint session of Congress tonight when delivering his State of the Union address. The president has put a lot of emphasis on affordability, as some good news on larger tax refunds are reported as a result of his One Big Beautiful Bill. Let's find out more about what to expect tonight as we're joined by our panel with Gerard Filitti and Tim Doscher. Gerard is a political strategist, attorney, and foreign affairs analyst, and Tim is the executive director of Unleash Prosperity. Thank you both for being here tonight. Gerard, let's start with you. We know the president will lay out new policies in his speech, according to White House Press Secretary. She says it's a very ambitious agenda. We don't know what those policies are yet. Has President Trump been an ambitious president so far, and what impact has that had on the American people? How's he going to sell this?
He's certainly been very ambitious, and he has unleashed a wave of executive orders in his first year of office that have transformed fundamentally America's approach both to the economy, to foreign policy, and to immigration enforcement of the laws. And I think we can expect President Trump to speak about this at length, about his accomplishments with growing the economy, with law and order, closing the border, foreign achievements as well, and trade imbalances being rectified, going in the right direction. And what we can expect tonight is that he will announce a continuation of these measures, notwithstanding the recent Supreme Court ruling, notwithstanding other attempts to stymie his actions. I think we can expect President Trump to double down on the actions that he's taken and announce new steps to pursue his agenda.
And you read the headlines of some of these analysts talking about it. The Supreme Court decision, they say, has only given more fuel to Trump's fire in terms of these tariffs. And you mentioned trade deficits. President Trump, and that's right, President Trump has cast that as a national security concern. So, Gerard, has Trump's bold approach on tariffs, like we said, despite the Supreme Court ruling, on Iran, on Hamas, and so forth, positioned his party to more easily sell themselves to the American people ahead of these critical midterms?
think that's still a challenge that we're seeing, and this is the beginning of the sales pitch to the American public. This, followed by the mid-year convention that's being planned by the RNC, are opportunities for the Republican Party to come back to the basics and get back on message and not be distracted by some of the negative messaging that's been out there and that we expect to see tonight as well, coming from the Democrats and from some stunts in the audience, perhaps, and the alternative rally. So this really is an opportunity for President Trump to emphasize his achievements and say that he needs more help, he needs more people in Congress working with him to get more done.
Well, and we know that the president's party usually loses a little bit of ground in the midterms. 2018 was somewhat of an exception because President Trump picked up a few Senate seats, although losing a few more in the House. So we'll have to see. Now, Tim, turning to you, we can probably expect President Trump to tout higher tax refunds this year. Is he doing enough to help families who are coping with that high cumulative inflation after the pandemic?
Well, that's a good way to start it because it did not start under Trump. Trump had, zero growth in inflation. He was at just about under 2% inflation growth when he was president. Biden came in, took it all the way up to 9.1%. And since Trump has been in office, he's brought it down now recently to 2.4%. That is a significant story that he must tell, that for the first time in 5 years, wage growth is now outpacing the growth of inflation, Kevin. That is a story he must tell. Real median household income, we just did the numbers, up $4,000 since Trump took office this year. When you factor in inflation, when you factor in what happened under Biden compared to what's happening under Trump, you've got businesses that with the one big beautiful bill now investing billions, tens of billions of dollars into this country, who are now going to not have to pay. They're not going to have to pay the tax on that because of the one big beautiful bill. The research and development that we're using for AI, to develop that, to lead AI, they're not going to have to pay taxes on those investments. This is the pro-growth agenda that President Trump promised. Now, look, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. We still got to get inflation down to 2%. It's still a little bit too high. We still need to figure out the tariff situation, absolutely. But the president must focus on all of these big wins that he's racking up here. And I think that that's going to be what he does.
And Tim, just a little context for viewers. Actually, economists say you want a little bit of inflation. So it's not zero. It is, like you said, that benchmark 2% that he's hovering at, he's trying to get to. And we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in his first term, now the one big beautiful bill. Because like the moniker goes, if you tax something, you get less of it. What do we want? More investment. People reinvesting in their businesses, making America prosperous. Of course, you can understand that. Now, Tim,
you've been reading supply side economics, young man.
I do my homework. Now, even some Republican lawmakers, though, have expressed concern over the impact of the tariffs, yet President Trump is reportedly planning 15% global tariffs after the Supreme Court intervened on his use of IEEPA. Now, how will the president make the case for this to Americans, and how will it affect their bottom line if he goes through with this in terms of prices, jobs, GDP growth?
Yeah, this is a novel issue that we're dealing with, and it's gonna be interesting to see. We have that court decision. You can't use IEEPA the way it's been used, so President Trump's going to find other ways to do this, I believe, and he already has. He's already announced that he's going to seek other avenues within the code to impose tariffs for an emergency, and then he's going to have to go to Congress and say, pass this, and if they don't, he's going to try and find other ways to do the tariffs. Look, the bottom line is I don't think President Trump wants to lose these trade deals he's made. Think about the access that we have gained to other nations' market that we never had before, that Trump was able to use the threat of tariffs to get. That is a good thing that he did. Now, we really do need to continue to, press him on the fact that, look, if a tariff is on long term, that's a higher cost for people to pay. And the problem, what we're trying to do is get costs down. So we want to continue to stick with that, Kevin. We want to continue to stick with the message, use it for trade deals, and then remove those tariffs and get better investments.
Yeah, it's just such a mix of things happening. I mean, it's $140 billion in tariff revenue that might just have to be refunded. We don't know yet, of course, because like we said, the IEEPA policy was struck down here. And I mean, some Americans are counting on those tariff refunds. I mean, even a DOGE check. President Trump's trying to get the money to him. He's had some roadblocks. We'll see what happens. Now, Gerard, let's come to you. Now, President Trump, he's been busy trying to end the war in Ukraine. He's launched a multi-phase peace plan in Gaza, and he says he's used tariffs and diplomacy to resolve numerous conflicts across the world. Do you expect Trump to use his speech to convey to the American people that he and his party, specifically the MAGA branch, are the party of peace?
Oh, I think he absolutely will, and that he will reinforce that his actions in foreign policy are what is making America great again on the world scale. That after many years of democratic inaction in foreign policy, that now we're seeing America being respected again in the world scene, and that's largely because he is able to bring peace to conflicts, to so many conflicts, whether it's Armenia, Azerbaijan, or whether it's trying to settle the conflict in the war in Ukraine, the board of peace that he created, not just for Gaza, but with wider ambitions of settling more conflicts and bringing more stability. All of this can be framed as a Make America Great Again effort, because by putting America first, these endeavors, you have economic benefits, you have trade partnerships, you have all of these are contingent, all of these successes are contingent on expanding trade and America's influence abroad. So we're clawing back some of the actions that China has taken. We're clawing back some of the advances that other nations have made at our expense. And Trump can point to successes in foreign policy that have resulted in a stronger American economy and are making America more respected on the world scene again.
Just to your point, Gerard, absolutely right. I mean, even the India-Pakistan conflict, there's so many to name in just one mouthful. I mean, as you were trying to do it, you know, that President Trump says he used tariffs to put a stop to that, and he's had some corroboration from the Pakistani side saying that that was the case. Very great foreign policy insight from you. Now, back to you, Tim. Unemployment recently fell a tick. That's good. And the U.S. added 130,000 jobs in January. Also good. How much of that is due to President Trump's policies, and how is he going to structure his messaging around these and other economic indicators?
Well, it's largely due to President Trump's policies. Think about what we lost, though, over the last year. 300,000 government jobs. Most of the job gains, not most of, but a lot of the job gains that President Biden touted in his administration were government jobs. And so when you see a big number like that fall, 300,000 government jobs, but you still see 130,000 private sector jobs added, that is draining the swamp. And I think that's exactly what President Trump is hoping for. Think about the productivity number that we saw, Kevin. You understand when you know, we've got this AI boom going on and we show a 5% productivity gain. And then you see the GDP number, which came out, very, very strong over the last year. That is the product of pro-growth policies and less regulatory burden. Remember the regulatory burden? We can't forget that. That is now
Trump
off
with
the
his
backs of
scissors
businesses.
cutting the red tape.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and
Tim,
that's reverberating throughout the economy.
Well, right. And so on that GDP note, I mean, we had like 5% maybe in the third quarter. Last I checked, it was 1.4 for the fourth quarter, much less. But due to the government shutdown, President Trump has expressed unity. How is he going to bring in both sides of the aisle here? He's addressing, well, most of Congress. Some may walk out, but the other Democrats will still be there. They have to get things in order in order to keep the lights on.
Yeah, look, this is a great, I'm so glad you brought this up. What are the things that unite us in life? And what are the things that make the economy strong? It's having safe streets. And think about this statistic. We just pulled this. You've got violent crime now down 20, 30, and 40%. 40% for carjackings, for murders. All of these are incredible numbers. That is a tax, actually. When you have violent crime on our streets, people aren't free to be and to do and to feel safe and to have their families. You cannot do that. And so President Trump can use that number, can use the inflation reduction in growth that we're seeing. He can use this as a unifying factor. I don't think we should focus on the grieving of tariffs. I don't think we should focus on the Supreme, whatever. We got to focus on the things that are bringing us together. And whether you like him or not, crime is down, illegal immigration is down, wages are up, and these are all products. These are all products of prosperity in the United States of America.
Really great level-headed input on this. Gerard, we just have a minute left. Foreign policy is not usually big in the State of the Union, but this might be different. Aircraft carriers are being sent to the Middle East or in that region, and Iran talks in Geneva are just a few days out. Where does the president go from here, and will he be able to make the case to Americans that his peace through strength approach is working?
Look, I think he absolutely can. And with Iran, it's very simple. All of America's forever wars in the last 25 years have been because of Iran. Thousands of Americans died in Iraq, Afghanistan, a lot of it traceable to Iran and Iranian proxies that have committed those attacks. A lot of the money that we've been spending on defense is because of Iran. So helping bring stability, whether it's a peace deal, whether Iran finally agrees to come to the table and disarm its nuclear programs, or whether it's through targeted strikes, I think President Trump can absolutely make a convincing argument that with Iran settled one way or another, it will mean more prosperity and better systems ahead for the United States of America.
Really great insight from both of you. And of course, the big topic, immigration, we didn't have a chance to go into that in detail, but a lot of takeaways from what you guys were saying. Gerard Felitti and Tim Doscher, thank you both for coming on the show this evening.
Thanks, Kevin.
And what do everyday Americans think about the current state of our union? And what are some of President Trump's most notable accomplishments? NTD's Sam Wong was out in the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
How is the current state of our union?
Well, I think it's improving each day. The way that inflation is coming down, we're noticing a difference in the prices of gasoline and energy. And I think we're seeing more patriotism, and here in Washington especially.
Pretty bad shape.
In what way?
Just the whole economy and the whole world's got a lot of turmoil going on. Going to be interesting to see what happens the next couple of months.
Oh, we couldn't be more happy with the way things are going. Donald Trump's doing a whale of a job. Hope it continues this way.
Since Trump has taken office, it's been amazing. A lot of changes have happened, I think for the good. Putting our country back on the map as far as our military has been huge.
I'm very concerned with the state of our union. I don't see anything good or positive happening, except our brothers and sisters in the streets. We're taking care of each other, regardless of the leadership or lack thereof.
What are some of President Trump's most notable policies or accomplishments?
I love what he's doing on the foreign field right now. I think that the most current, of course, was the working with the Mexican government for the cartel.
I'm uncertain about how we're taking people out of the country. It's something that needs to be done, and how's the right path to do that?
Well, first of all, our immigration. Everybody loves coming to America, and that is why, because it's a safe place to come. It's a safe place to come and raise your family, but you need to do it legally.
The lack of support and care for the people of California. We're just not seeing support for the kinds of services that our friends and family rely on.
Cleaning up the cities has been really great, just for the safety of the people.
I think it's pretty impressive of what he did in Venezuela, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Iran in the next couple of weeks.
Taking care of our immigration crisis, he's taking care of our tariffs, and he's bringing jobs back to America. Even talking about other things like the stock market, it's been off the chart.
I like the fact that he's trying to put tariffs into place and control how we've deindustrialized our country. I love America first because we have all our citizens should be taken care of first.
Peace through strength is a big one. And I think we need to be recognized as a country that is a God-fearing country, and a country that wants to do the right things. For 250 years, we've helped other countries. And I think we can all take pride in that.
Coming up, Savannah Guthrie says her family is offering a $1 million reward for information leading to the recovery of her missing 84-year-old mother in Arizona. A top YouTube executive continued testimony today in the ongoing social media addiction trial. Christina Corona was inside the courtroom and has the details. A convicted child molester from the 1990s is granted early parole in California. The local sheriff's office and others speak out against the decision. David Lamb has more. Hi again. A heartbreaking new video from the daughter of missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. Today's show anchor Savannah Guthrie says her family is offering a $1 million reward for information leading to their mother's recovery. This comes as the investigation into her disappearance has yielded no arrests and no leads on Guthrie's whereabouts. Lee Waldman has the latest.
I'm coming on to say it is day 24. Since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed.
As law enforcement is working on the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, her daughter, Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, is offering up a reward for her mother's recovery.
We are offering a family reward of up to $1 million.
This is in addition to the FBI's $100,000 reward for information about 84-year-old Guthrie. It's the first we've heard from one of Guthrie's children in more than a week. Amidst the plea, Savannah Guthrie acknowledged for the first time that her mother may no longer be alive.
She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves.
CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller believes this video comes as substantive tips in the case are slowing down.
The family still believes, and investigators concur with this, that there's still someone out there, maybe more than one someone, who actually knows.
Meanwhile, new details have emerged about the masked person seen on doorbell camera footage. The suspect visited her doorstep on 2 different days, not just the morning she is believed to have been kidnapped, a source told CNN. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said in a statement Monday there is no date or time stamp associated with these images, and suggesting the photos were taken on different days is purely speculative.
The landmark social media addiction trial resumed today in Los Angeles, with jurors hearing more testimony from YouTube's side. The company defended its platform's design against claims it promotes addictive use. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more from the courthouse.
It's week 4 of the social media addiction trial, with testimony continuing today as YouTube's Vice President of Engineering, Christos Goodrow, took the stand. He argued that YouTube is designed to provide value to users, not maximize time or cause addiction.
Before the testimony began, proceedings were delayed about 30 minutes after jurors asked the judge to again review legal instructions, including how social media companies may be held liable if a platform's feature is found to be negligent or to contribute to harm. Goodrow, who has overseen YouTube's recommendation algorithm for 15 years, defended the platform's design, saying YouTube is intended to help users quickly find content they value, not to keep them watching endlessly. Plaintiff attorney Mark Lanier pressed him, pointing to internal company goals aimed at reaching 1 billion watch hours per day, along with features such as recommendations, autoplay, and short-form videos, or YouTube Shorts. Lanier argued those tools encourage compulsive viewing and compared recommendation systems to slot machines that keep users engaged. However, Goodrow pushed back, saying that excessive scrolling would actually signal a failure of YouTube's recommendation system. He also highlighted safeguards that were introduced over the years, including screen time reminders, bedtime alerts, parental controls, and the separate YouTube Kids app designed specifically for younger users. The lawsuit centers on claims brought by a now 20-year-old woman who alleges social media platforms were negligently designed and contributed to mental health harms.
The plaintiff, known as Kaylee GM, is expected to testify this week. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles, Christina Corona, NTD News.
A convicted child molester from the 1990s is granted early parole in California. The local sheriff's office and one of the victims speak out against the decision. NTD's David Lamb has more.
Members of California law enforcement are speaking out about the early release of a convicted serial child molester. The California Parole Board has granted parole to 64-year-old David Allen Funston.
I cannot believe in this state we would allow that to happen. This isn't a possession case. We're not possessing drugs. We're not doing things like that. This is a serious case.
This is what he did. Lured him with candy, Barbie dolls, toys, and abused these kids.
Funston was convicted of 16 counts of kidnapping and child molestation in the 1990s. Multiple children were victimized, some as young as 4 years old.
Hello, my name is Amelia. I'm a victim of David Allen Funston. I feel he is a very horrible person who has done horrific acts. I stood in front of this man in court as a child in elementary, and I will stand again.
Funston was sentenced to more than 20 years in prison, along with 3 additional consecutive sentences of 25 years to life. Under California's elderly parole program, inmates over 50 are eligible for parole. According to the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, elderly parole is actually excluded in most other states for crimes like Funston's. Now, his grant parole comes at a time when some lawmakers have been criticized for their allowing the release of convicted criminals over the years.
Having spent 8 years in the legislature and being back in law enforcement now, they're impacting us. It is not okay what's being done, period.
At this time, it's unclear when and where Funston will be released. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Coming up, just how close was Lindsey Vonn to losing her leg? The Olympic skier provides an update on her condition. Dave Martin joins us to discuss. Hey there, all right, let's get to it. Now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, we've got some college basketball news as well as some big boxing news. But let's start with the Olympics. NBC announced that this was the most watched winter game since 2014, averaging 23.5 million viewers. Does that include the numbers for Sunday's hockey final?
You know, it does not, which you would figure would only make the numbers higher, of course. Now, I can already tell you that 8.7 million people in Canada were watching the game. That's not a country of 41 million people. Of course, hockey is the biggest sport in Canada. The U.S. is their biggest rival and vice versa. It's becoming a pretty big deal here, too. And Canada normally beats the U.S. in hockey, but not on Sunday, which is what made this win so special. Now, these two have played 20 times in the Olympics. The U.S. has won just 5 of those times. There have been 3 ties. Meanwhile, Canada has come away the victor 12 times. So all that excitement is a reason why President Donald Trump invited both the men's and women's hockey teams to the White House and to attend tonight's State of the Union address. Now, only the men's team will be able to make it. Meanwhile, these players are going to be on a very tight schedule. The NHL resumes play tomorrow night after pausing their season for nearly 3 weeks to allow the players to play in the Olympics. So they don't get much rest here after winning.
Wow, that's some blood, sweat, and tears. Well, mostly just blood.
Yeah, mostly just blood. Yeah, exactly. The guy getting the high sticking there in the third period. Oof, that was rough.
Guys.
Lost his front 2 teeth for the Team USA.
Business as usual. All right, elsewhere in the games, one of the more enduring and tragic images was skier Lindsey Vonn being airlifted from the mountain after her crash in the downhill competition. What's the latest on her condition?
Yeah, Vonn is finally out of the hospital after that crash. It was just a couple weeks ago now. She's had multiple surgeries on her leg after suffering a complex tibia fracture on her left leg. Now, a complex fracture is a severe type of broken bone where it shatters into multiple pieces. Let's listen to what Vonn said yesterday about her complex fracture.
And the reason why it was so complex was because I had compartment syndrome. And compartment syndrome is when you have so much trauma to one area of your body that there's too much blood and it gets stuck. And it basically crushes everything in the compartment. So all the muscle and nerves and tendons, it all kind of dies. And Dr. Tom Hackett saved my leg. He saved my leg from being amputated. He did what's called a fasciotomy, where he cut open like both sides of my leg, kind of filleted open, so to speak. Let it breathe, and he saved me. And you know, I always talk about everything happens for a reason, but if I hadn't torn my ACL, which I would have torn anyways with this crash, if I hadn't done that, Tom wouldn't have been there. He wouldn't have been able to save my leg. So I feel very lucky and grateful for him, for this 6-hour surgery he put in on Wednesday to rebuild it, which went amazingly well.
So Vonn also revealed that she broke her ankle in her other leg in that same crash. So she's in a wheelchair right now. She said she'll soon graduate to crutches. She anticipates she'll be on those for a couple months. So we definitely wish her the best as she rehabs.
Yes, that's right. She's a trooper.
She's a trooper.
Shifting gears to Boxing Day, former champions Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have both recently come out of retirement and have now agreed to a fight for this September. Do we have any details, like what weight class they'll be fighting at?
You know, we don't know the weight class. We don't know how many rounds this is going to be. We do know it's going to be on September 19 in Las Vegas. It'll be held at the Sphere, and it's going to be televised by Netflix. And this is going to be a rematch of their 2015 bout. Promoters say that's still the most profitable fight ever. They set pay-per-view records. Now, that one was won by Mayweather, who had been retired since 2017 with that perfect 50-0 record. Now, Mayweather actually turns 49 today, announced his unretirement just a few days ago. Now, the 47-year-old Pacquiao, meanwhile, came out of retirement last summer. He earned a draw in a welterweight title match then. But the question of weight classes is a very interesting one. Mayweather fought at 5 different weight classes during his career. Pacquiao won titles at 8 different classes, so I'm sure they'll find some common ground somewhere.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Any predictions?
I'm going to go with Mayweather. I mean, his defense was just impenetrable, but I definitely want to watch this fight.
Oh, Dave. Oh, man, it's nerve-wracking. All right, moving to college basketball, we have a number of ranked teams in action tonight, including the new #1 team in the country, Duke.
Yeah, Duke, fresh off their big win over Michigan on Saturday, became the new #1 yesterday. They play at Notre Dame tonight. That game starts very soon, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We actually have the top 4 teams in action playing tonight, just not playing each other. We got #2, Arizona plays at Baylor. That game starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. #3, Michigan hosts Minnesota. That game starts at 8:30 Eastern time. And #4, Iowa State plays at Iowa starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Meanwhile, in the game that started just really a few minutes ago, #21, Miami of Ohio is playing at Eastern Michigan. Now, Miami of Ohio, this is the Red Hawks. They play in the MAC conference. They are the only undefeated team left in college basketball, 27-0 record. Counting tonight's game, they have 4 more regular season games, and then they've got the conference tournament. Should they make it through without a loss, it would be just the 21st team ever to enter the NCAA tournament with an undefeated record.
Well, and depending on the school, those college ballers, they're the cool guys.
They are definitely the cool guys. They are the kings of their campus, Yeah. Nowadays, now that they get the NIL money, it must be really awesome to do that too.
That's great. Well, thanks for keeping it real, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Kevin.
And that's all for today's news. You can find some round-the-clock original coverage at ntd.com/live if you want, or download our NTD app. And thanks for tuning in. I'm Kevin Hogan. Have a good night.